Oh. And I chosen to share yesterday, during Lucy's service, I would have said that, it's really, helpful for me to reflect on how long I've been coming here. Because my twins are 24 years old now. And when they first came here, they were maybe 5 or 6. And at the time, I was going between Hopkinsville and Clarksville and Tullahoma. And I was divorced. And the children would be with me alternating Sundays. And that meant that they were going to be at one of those 3 places whenever they were with me. And Lucy always welcomed them here and made them special. And Carrie and I were trying to remember who it was. There was a German lady who made amazing pastries.
Elizabeth.
Was it Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were stellar pastries.
Yeah, Elizabeth went down.
And the kid, yes, that's it, Adele. And after a while, the children would ask me on a Sunday, are we going to the Good Snacks Church? Because it was so much easier to get them motivated if we were coming down here. Yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing, in regards to our singing, I have a friend at work. Where I used to work. Whenever I asked him how he was doing, he would say, I'm just right. Never I'm good enough, never I'm great, never I'm awful. It's I'm just right. So whenever I hear our glorious voices singing together, like we did this morning, I always am compelled to say that was just right. Just right. So imagine if you were given an opportunity to fly up, ease into a little spacecraft and launch and be one of 50 people that goes to Mars. Would you volunteer for that?
Yep.
Would you? I bet if I polled a whole bunch of people, there might be some of this. I don't know. I'd like some other people to go first and then maybe. Okay. So the next question is, forget Mars. If you could go as a group, be part of a group, go to California, get on a wooden ship and be told you're going to spend the next 2 years circumnavigating the globe until you come right back here. Would you sign up for that? Yeah. So I'm always just amazed by the courage of the New World explorers back in the day. Barely 500 years ago. I mean, that seems like such a short amount of time in human evolution and the history of this globe. 500 years ago, people were like, well, I think if we go that way, we'll end up over here. If we sail west, we'll end up in the east. To tell you the truth, nobody's done it, we're not sure. Want to go? I think those must have been some of the bravest people that have ever existed, because there was no GPS. They have a sextant. They have the ability to somehow track with the stars kind of where they are. But this whole wave of New World explorers, to me, has fascinated me since I was a kid. People that sailed west, going to Asia, and ran in to North America and South America. Didn't plan on that, but there it was. I always think about those New World explorers, and in particular, Ferdinand Magellan, Portuguese sailor,
Yeah.
who kept petitioning Portuguese king for a westward expedition to the Spice Islands. Portuguese had already taken it east. They dominated the spice trade that way. Portuguese king said, I see no reason to do it. We already had this. So what did Magellan do? He went to the Spanish king and said, listen, I have an idea. Would you be willing to pay for this? And that's exactly what happened. In 1519, Magellan, with 5 ships and 270 men, sailed west, trying to end up east. And when they encountered, they knew they were going to encounter South America. There'd been people there before that come back and told them what was in the way. They just went along the coast of South America, kept trying to find a way across, couldn't, and ended up all the way down at what's now known as the Strait of Magellan, very close to Antarctica. Ice on the ships, and they sailed up the west coast of South America. And by then they were like, we made it. It couldn't take us more than 2 or 3 days to get across. So they got some provisions and headed west again for 3 months. And by then they'd run out of food, and many had died of scurvy. By the time they got to the Philippines, they were down to 2 ships out of 5. And one of them decided to sail east, and 1 ship made it back. Now, there's a little bit of a spiritual lesson here from Magellan, which is he decided that he needed to impose his brand of religion on some of those Philippine native tribes, and ended up in a battle with them and getting killed, and he never made the trip home. But one of his captains did, and 1 ship and 20 people showed back up. It's an amazing story. There's a book out called A World Lit Only by Fire. It was written probably 15 or 20 years ago about that period in human history and the bravery it took from Magellan and those people to sail that way. Now, I would like to recommend a documentary that you can see now on Hulu, but you can also watch it on YouTube if you're interested. It's called In and of Itself. It's by a magician named Derek DeGardio. It ran for several years straight in New York in an off-Broadway theater. It really is a powerful thing. It's about how do we know who we are? But in that play, he has a ship's log. So that one person each night has to leave the play before they see what happens at the end. And they have to go off and write what they think is going to happen, and then bring it back the next night and share it. And this goes on the entirety of the play, the run of the play. So he has a book about this thick, the ship's log. And the thing that's so powerful about the idea of the ship's log is this. Explorers would say, today is such and such a date. We woke up, we were at these coordinates. The sky is clear, we're making good headway, etc. Just a brief entry to let people know what happened that day. But here's the thing, it's not always clear, and you can't always see the stars. So there are days of entry where it's essentially cloudy, we don't know where we are, we think we are here, but we're not sure. Next day, still cloudy, we think we're here, but we're not sure. Now, when the clouds finally break and you're able to reassess where the stars are, you can then accurately, in the ship's log, register where you are. So in this documentary, Derek DeGardio says, so at any given time, you had a 100% truthful, if not completely accurate, rendition of what was going on, a recording of it, because it couldn't be absolutely accurate at all times because you didn't know where you were, but you were accurately capturing your inaccuracy, if you will. We don't know. And so, and that thinking, I would just like to say, I feel like we are all little ships sailing into the unknown, recording what is accurate as best we can and trying to capture it as best we can when we are at a point where the clouds have cleared and we get an accurate sense. But these times, the period we're in right now, there are many clouds around us. I think I know where we are and I am, but I may not be actually accurate. Politics of the day, economic insecurity, war, violence, environmental health, AI, things are moving very quickly. And I'm not sure exactly where I am. And sometimes the floor feels a little bit squishy. I read an article by the American Psychologists Association where they've done a recent survey. 80% of the people that they surveyed reported that the world is changing in ways that they're not sure they know how to process. This is hard where we are now. 75% reported being stressed out about the country's future. Now, I think it's important to note that's on both sides of the aisle. I don't like the direction the country's going in, and I'm not sure it's right. And we crave security. I think it's just part of the human condition. I want to know what's going on. But some of us have a far greater need for security than others. And we can become stressed out and anxious, powerless over the direction it feels like our lives are going in because of forces way bigger than us. Like Gilligan and that ship, the tiny ship, is tossed. And I'm not sure exactly how to get my footing. And I think it's important for us all to learn how to cope with this and remember that we're in the same boat and we're all doing the best we can. And I loved the meditation that you wrote for us this morning, or that you found for us, because it's just right. We just have to remember we're not alone. And our actions do make a difference. Now, in this article by the American Psychological Association, they offered a couple of observations so that you can kind of see, am I doing okay or not? So here are some signs that you may not be doing as well as you want. And the first is, do you have a constant need for reassurance that your point of view is within the realm of reasonable? Am I crazy? Does this make sense to you? I need reassurance. Now, the second one is something that many of us recognize, and that is the need to micromanage other people. Because, my gosh, if they would just do what they're supposed to do, I would feel better. And sometimes that can be under the same roof, and sometimes that can be out in the community or in another part of the country. But if those people would just act right, I would feel better. A third way to know that you're struggling is if you are dealing with heightened procrastination. Because I think procrastination is part of the human condition. We just have to be more aware of it. And some of us procrastinate more than others. But I know from my own personal experience, I can be kind of frozen in procrastination out of fear of doing something wrong. Okay, and sometimes I'll just say, I'm lazy. But procrastination oftentimes has something to do with, I'm a little bit afraid of what I need to do. The last thing that they suggested might be a way to check to see if you're struggling with everything that's going on. Is if you're constantly checking your emails, rewriting emails, filling out applications, retext, looking at a text, rewriting the text over and over, instead of just flowing with things. But probably the biggest marker of all that you may not be doing things, dealing with things so well, is if you find yourself in a constant state of worry. It's one tool, but it's the one tool that many of us use more than ever. Because we believe if we can worry about it and predict the future, we can avoid surprises. I've said this before in here, so I'm repeating myself, but I had a mother-in-law once who worried about everything. And she would say, she had the clarity to say, you know, the things I worry about never happen. See, it's working. That is an exact quote. See, it's working. We agonize over problems. We think through every possible outcome. We read every opinion about it online, and we'll find a solution to control outcomes. But the thing about it is chronic worry doesn't give us more control and robs us of the pleasure and enjoyment of today. The present of the energy that we should be tapping into. As the Buddha said, be where you are, otherwise you will miss out on your life. That means to me that stress and unknown is just part of navigating life. Now, here's a couple of other things that were in that article. There are better ways than worrying and trying to control things. The first thing they suggested was, hey, you know what? It is overwhelming at times. Why don't you, like the Serenity Prayer suggests, just take care of the things that you can. Okay, you can't control everything. Take small actions, make a difference to the people around you. Take action, active problem solving, and let go. The other thing they suggested is make sure that you do recognize fear, worry, agitation, because a lot of us aren't even in tune with our feelings about all this unknown and craziness. So I have to identify my feelings and I have to be willing to share them. And then the article said this, and I thought this was very interesting. They said, what you need to do is challenge your need for certainty. What are the advantages of uncertainty? Don't good things also happen in the uncertain world instead of all just the bad stuff we're worried about? Good surprises happen too. And if we do have something that turns out to be a negative outcome, we are able to overcome it. We build resilience. Life is not about how fast we run or how high we climb, but how well we bounce. We're challenged by things that we didn't anticipate. How much certainty can we ever have? How much certainty can we ever really have? Because striving for certainty ultimately just fills us up with a sense of worry and anxiety. I have to know how this is going to turn out before I take a step into it. Is a way to create a lot of anxiety and worry. The question we also have to ask ourselves is, since it's unknown, does that mean any outcome that arises is necessarily going to be bad? I have a friend who says she has a friend that she's compelled to look at, and when she greets her, she says, "Is anything okay?" Because we will find comfort in always something's wrong. There is a degree of acceptance that we're exploring here, and a desire to focus on the present and let worries and futures just in the future be what they are. I read recently, definition of a life of prayer is when you never stop asking what is happening in the unfolding creation right here, right now in front of me. And how can I make a difference? Again, to Noel's opening. How can I make a difference in a positive way? That's a life of prayer that I can align with. What's going on and what difference can I make? And of course, if I can be still and pray and be mindful, I have a much better chance of just being peaceful in the moment. And I need to remember, as Maya Angelou said, every storm runs out of rain. All of this uncertainty and doubt and fear that we often feel right now in uncertain times, we need to be reminded it's not going to be this way forever. It might get worse, might get better, probably going to be just right if I approach it that way. And I think more important than anything else is in these uncertain times, in these disorienting times, it's more important than ever to remember we are not alone. And you know what? There may be someone waiting for me to be asked, for me to ask them for help. We see that you're challenged and you're struggling. We don't want to impose ourselves, but if you just ask for help, we will step in and do what we can. And when we do that, when we are here for each other in these scary and uncertain times, when we let go of the need for outcomes, when we let go of all the worry and the stress, and we remember we're not alone and that there are people who want to help us, there is no telling what new worlds we might discover together.